But please, yeah, the next act is a spoken word act. He's a poet. I don't know how else to describe him really. Poet, comedian, musician, all sorts of things. So please put your hands together for Lee Nelson.
Hey. And the other one is I'm not as tall as many other people. I hope you all enjoyed your allotted convo slot. It is tedious, but still it's time for the Queen's speech. Christmas, yes, time for arguments chiefly. So, you were working as a waitress in a cocktail bar when I met you. I picked you out, I shook you up, I turned you around, I turned you into someone new. But 5 years later on, you've got the world at your feet. Success has been so easy for you. But don't forget, it's me who put you where you are now, and I can put you back down too. Oh, don't. Don't you want me? You know I don't believe it when I hear that you won't see me. Don't. Don't you want me? You know I don't believe you when you say that you don't need me, because it's much too late to find you think you've changed your mind. You better change it back or we'll both be sorry! Don't you want me, baby? Don't you want me? No. You were working as a waitress in the cocktail bar when I met you, but even then I knew I'd found a much better place, even with and without you. The 5 years we've had have been such good times. I feel that you, but now I think it's time to live my life on my own. I guess it's just what I must do. Oh, don't! Don't you want me? You know I don't believe you when I hear that you won't see me, and don't you want me? You know I don't believe you when you say that you don't need me, because it's much too late to find you think you've changed your mind. You better change it back or we'll both be sorry. Don't you want me, baby? Don't you want me? Oh. That was Christmas number 1, 1981. Great video. Like a little film. Okay, now two of my own due sense of exhaustion and dread. I'll just say a little thing. I first wrote this poem about 10 years ago, and at that point the first line was 10 years younger than it is now. So I changed it, but not much else. Okay, are you knocking forward to 36, 37, 38, whatever, Heaven's Door by any other name, 40 years old? Do you remember pretending to have been allowed to watch the Young Ones when it was first on? And the Clangers, and the Wombles, and the A-Team, and Bagpuss, and do you know they only made 12 Bagpusses? Yeah. Thought so. Were you told off in CNA? Do you remember aquaskips, K-leather and blocker boots? No trainers to school, tramlines and chessboards in your flat top, pixie boots, rat tails, bunchy socks, spangles, space dust, bin strikes, British Leyland, spangles, the miners getting fucked by Thatcher, spangles, top of the pops when it was good. Captain and Tennille, Renee and Renata, Alvin Stardust, Baltimore, fucking classic. Spangles, space dust, the 3-day week, spangles, spiralling divorce rates, catching tadpoles in a net made out of old tights that you learn to make on Blue Peter, Magpie, Stuart McConey's journalism, space dust, spangles. Do you remember things? Were they nicer? Hanging and sagging a bit, and that Christopher Hitchens has got a point. Believe you had a more authentic childhood than they do now with all this Xbox and television and so on. Do you find yourself parroting things you heard your parents say when you were 17 and you laughed at them and you said, I'll never say that, and now you do, and to be honest, it's a struggle to remember to put the irony in. Are you, frankly, and to be honest, getting a bit sick of all this irony? No, really? Do you go to the theatre to be entertained? Do you regularly discuss the cost of property? Is your youthful conditioning against knee-jerk reactions almost imperceptibly wearing away? Do you find yourself sounding like the Daily Mail occasionally? Do you agree because you can't be bothered to argue it's not worth it, but you are? Were you pretending to care in 1990, watching the world wake up from history, right here, right now? Remember Spangles, the video to Don't You Want Me? Do you pass on emails of rosy reminiscences in an attempt to avoid staring into the abyss in front of you? Check your status on Facebook. There's a lot of you. Do you suspect yourself of being a bit of a hypocrite? Would your teenage self hate you? Are you afraid you might be unremarkable? Do you repeat others' jokes as your own? Have 3 sets of office clothing but keep your ripped jeans under the bed to slim back into? Watch tribute bands, go to reunion concerts, Space Dust, Spangles, Ivor the Engine, Button fucking Moon? Yours is the world and all that's in it. Christ. Forward this to 15 people within 10 minutes as if it was worth it. Okay, and this one's a semi-demi-hemi cover version. It's rather cynical. Please forgive me, what with it being Christmas and all. It's got swears in it as well. A visit from St Nicholas. It was the night before Christmas, and all through the place, the entire family was fucked off its face. Grandma and Grandpa were singing a song, and the kid was in bed, minged off his mong. His 2 tiny twin sisters were strapped in their cots. They'd been given fair warning, so they'd better not. Poor Mama and me, upstairs in our bed, feeling sick to the stomach and muzzy of head. Then, out in the street, there arose such a clatter, I pulled out of Ma's mouth to see what was the matter. I hate myself. Away across the bedroom, I staggered and crashed, threw open the curtains and lit up a fag, and what to my wet, cum-glazed eyes should appear? Why, a rusty old sleigh and a dozen reindeer, and a rheumy-eyed driver looking doped up and sick, who, despite his appearance, I was sure was St Nick. More carcass than creature, his reindeer they bled, with whip cuts and blisters from hoof-tip to head. The state of those beasts was a shock and a shame, how they trembled and whined as he called them by name. Now Dasher and Dancer, up over those walls, and best do it quick, or it's boots to the balls, and oh, poor Rudolph. Red of eye now as nose, well he bucked and he shied under terrible blows, but regardless of whippings and rollings of eye, the sleigh wouldn't move and the reindeer stood by. As swift as the leaves caught in hurricane's chase, he leapt from the sled and smashed one in the face. He gibbered and shouted, he gibbered and cursed, but his drunken tirade was just making things worse, and that was a fact just as true as can be, that even that messed up old Dipso could see. So he bellowed, "Who needs ya?" in terrible tones, and he grabbed at a sack full of mobile phones, all specially designed for young kiddies of 7 to give them a tumour and send them to heaven. He climbed up the drain pipe. It was sagging quite badly. The phones in the sack were all chirruping madly. He got to the roof and he knocked down the tiles, flung the sack at the chimney and missed by a mile. He snatched at the sack as he headed back down, and I thought, what are you going to do now, you fat clown? And here comes the part where his magic was plain, the one part of that night that I just can't explain. He and Sack on that roof went all thin, not a sound disappeared down the chimney, reappeared in my lounge. As he stood in my lounge, I peered down from the stair. There was snot in his beard, there was green in his hair, and his eyes darted round. They were sneaky and quick, and he grinned as the pederast rubbing his dick. Slung 2 phones and a Game Boy quick under the tree, then slung a look round like, what's in it for me? The gap in this sack he refilled with my telly. Well, I couldn't let that go by, not on your Nelly. I came down the stairs 2x2, 4x4, and seizing a plank that I kept by the door, without warning I set on the raddled old git. When I'm armed with a plank, I am serious shit. That sod, hear him squeal as he falls to the floor. Ho, 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 the swift rhythm of my 2x4. As I whacked and I cracked at the slug on the floor, I drove him back through the house to the door. I feared that his magic he'd let loose on me, but his magic had left him, or that's how it seemed. His eyes, how they ran, and his cuts bleeding freely. He lay on the floor, all fat, wobbly and wheezy. His slack, drooling mouth, it was wet with the stuff that most people wipe on a tissue or cuff. My anger had faded, and now came remorse. A little too much Christmas spirit, of course. Santa? I asked. As I panted, he cried, "What happened to your seasonal spirit?" I sighed, then he gave me a look of a terrible weight. It said, "What use is giving in this world of hate? It carried the anvil of centuries wasted in the giving of gifts, while the people just hated a look, though distorted by bennies and gin, that said that his spirit had just given in. But there's something that night leapt from my eye to his. It said, things as they are, that's not all that there is. I helped him back to his sleigh, and I gave him a gin. Said, if you're air back this way, do feel free to drop in. I gave the reindeer some carrots, I did all I could. I wiped off the vodka stick smeared on his hood. I picked all the lumps and stuff out of his beard. Prayed the future should not be as bad as I feared. A bit more understanding when push comes to shove, and Santa can once again visit in love. I understood then, as I stood at the door, that I had to give love, and I had to do more. In an effort to save us from utter depravity, I must treasure like jewels each last scrap of humanity. I looked at him sitting all covered in shite, and I gave silent thanks for my lesson that night. But one glance in his sack, my epiphany faded as I stared at the loot from the houses he'd raided. As hard as you tried to drag truth from confusion, misery certain and hopes a delusion, Santa left with my iPod drove wrecked out of sight, said, but bollocks to all, it's a cake of a night.